This lesson is on graphing quadratic equations. This is very similar to graphing linear equations. So if you need to see the linear equation, make sure you watch that video before this. For the quadratic equation, we're going to go ahead and set up the same thing. We're having an x and y table. We're also having a grid. And then we're going to just substitute numbers into the equation. So this equation, notice the difference between a linear equation and a quadratic equation is that in a linear equation, you had y equals, and then just x to the first power minus or plus some kind of number. And sometimes you would also have a coefficient in front of this x right here. Now in quadratic equation, you're going to have a power instead right here of 2. Always a 2 for a quadratic equation. Okay, so let's go ahead and substitute numbers in. So using these numbers that are in the x right here, we're going to substitute it into this equation with this x right here. Now, be careful to make sure you put parentheses because it's all of this x right here squared. Especially when you have negative numbers, if you do not put a parentheses, that's going to change the value of this. So for example, I'm going to use -2 as my x value. We're going to go ahead and put y equals, and again, all of this is x right here, so that's going to be your -2 squared, just like this right here, this part of the equation, and then -3. Okay, so order of operations says I need to do my parentheses first and my exponent. So this is parentheses, and this is exponent right here, so this is -2 squared, which then should give us +4, and then -3, so 4 minus 3 is equal to +1. So we're going to put that into the y value. Okay, now let's try -1. So again, same equation. We're going to put -1 squared minus 3, which will give us +1 minus 3, and that equals -2. So now x equals 0. 0 squared is 0. 0 minus 3 will give us -3. 1 squared minus 3, so that equals 1 minus 3, and that gives us -2 as the y value. And then 2 squared minus 3 will give us 4. 4 minus 3 will equal to 1. Now if you look at this y value right here, you're going to notice there's going to be some kind of pattern to it. Now the tricky part is finding out exactly where does the pattern happen so that way it starts to repeat. All right, so as we get to know more about it, you'll start seeing the pattern. Once we get from here, let's go ahead and plot the points like we did with the linear equations. So for -2, 1, we're going to put -2, 1. For -1, -2. For 0, -3. For 1, -2. And for 2, +1. So once we're done with that, we're going to go ahead and connect the dots, and it's going to look something like this. It's always going to be a U shape, just like this right here. It could either be U facing upwards or U facing downwards as well. So, but that's going to be the shape that we're looking for is a U shape, not like the linear, because the linear was just a line either going upwards because it's a positive slope, or if it was going downwards because it's a negative slope. So that is the difference between the linear and the quadratic equation. Now, similar to the linear equation, let's go ahead and find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So in this case, for the x-intercept, you're going to have is 2 parts where it crosses on the x-axis right here, and then it also crosses on the x-axis right here. On this part right here, we're going to have a negative x, and on this part right here, we're going to have a positive x. So x is equal to -1.5, 0, and also +1.5, 0. The y-intercept is going to be what crosses on the y-axis right here, and it's crossing at this point right there. So on the y-intercept, it's going to have is 0, -3. The difference of this one, the quadratic equation versus the linear, is that there is no slope in the quadratic because slope just tells us it's going to run and rise consistently. But in this case, as you can see, there is no run and rise because it's going to come downwards and go back upwards. So there is no consistent run and rise on this one. So because of that, there is no slope. So that is the lesson for graphing out quadratic equations.